Okay, well, looks like we need an updated diff cover. Everyone that I know messaged me about this and said if you're planning on putting solid bushings, in my case I'm going pretty stiff, I'm going with the Condor ones, this would happen. But thankfully it happened while it wasn't installed on the car. It actually happened right here. It just kind of fell and that ear broke off. So this is a common failure point on the E36 under a lot of load. I mean, if you have fresh bushings, rubber bushings, more than likely you'll be okay. But if you're gonna put a lot of load, meaning high horsepower or stiffer bushings, all of that stuff, these diff covers, the diff itself is strong. The cover where the bushings go in here, not so much. So as you can see, I even painted it. I'm kind of sad. But we got a new one. We got an updated one, reinforced one. Let's open up the box and we'll go through it and we'll see a side-by-side comparison of what the reinforced one looks like compared to the OEM diff cover. Okay, so if you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing. I have been a little bit busy. I have the rear end completely dismembered in my car. But let's go ahead and open up this box to see how these new the new diff cover looks actually. So open this up. So we just got this Rock Auto yesterday. This is supposed to be the upgraded Dorman diff cover. So let's see how this looks. Cast aluminum piece, so it's strong. Nicely packaged. That's the bill. That's the piece there. So let's get this out of the way. Look at that. Okay. So that's the piece. And at first glance, I mean, it looks like it's the right piece. There's quite a few different differentials for this car, small case, medium case, and all that. In my case, my differential is a medium. It's the original 328 diff, so it's an open diff. I think it's a 293 or something like that. Let's do a side-by-side comparison because this actually looks really good. Like, I must say, this actually is a good looking piece, and it is cast aluminum, so it's actually light too because it's aluminum, but it feels strong. So let's do a side-by-side comparison between the OE and this one. So it looks like Dorman was nice enough to throw in this little instruction set to install bushings. You do need to support these ears as you're pressing a bushing in. In my case, we don't need to because we're not going to be pressing them in. They are a two-piece bushing, so they go in by hand, if anything, a rubber mallet. So I don't need to worry about this, but if you're doing OE bushings, or if you're even going to be hitting at it at all, make sure you support it at the bottom, put a piece of wood or something underneath, so that the pressure going downwards doesn't crack these ears. So looking at these side by side, off of first glance, you can quickly tell that these fins, these little fins here, are much thicker on the Dorman one than they are on the OE. Actually, you know what? I have the broken piece, so we can actually see that right there. So you can see immediately how much thinner the original ones are versus the Dorman ones. So that's a good comparison there. They said it's 30% more rigid, and I mean, immediately you can tell it's definitely thicker here, all the way down to the center of the casing. It looks like this part is actually extended up, whereas on the OE it's coming a little bit more down. I think that might just be to equally distribute the load, so that could be the reason why. And then also I've noticed that these going down here go further down than they do on the original. So that's, I think, the main reason why these are much stronger and can handle a lot more load. Now, if you're going to turbo your car, if you're no hints there, but if you're going to turbo your car or put more power into it, if you're going to make it into a track car, which means you're probably going to go solid, whether it be monoball, even poly, things like that, you should definitely look to get one, your subframe reinforced, but also your diff cover changed out to this one. It looks much more rigid, so I can't wait to put this on. It looks like it's a direct bolt on, so that's good. We just have to transfer that sensor here, which should be fairly straightforward. Let's get this off. The only other thing that you need to do the installation is some RTV. So I went and bought the ultra gray gasket maker. This is good for diff fluids and all the heat that you're probably gonna have in your diff. That's really it. So let's start taking this one apart, and then we'll clean it all up and put this on. Okay, so here's how I set it up. I put my diff on the jack, raise it up a little bit, and then have my drain pan underneath there. I don't have a socket or an Allen that big, so I think this should work. It's a T70 Torx. Seems to fit. I'm just gonna try it very gently. I don't want to strip anything. I mean, although I don't really care too much about this, it's broken now, but ideally I want to try this on the drain bolt so I can get the diff fluid out before cracking these the cover off. If majority of this comes out from here, it'd be a lot cleaner, because if I start opening all of these up, the bottom is going to drip probably outside this hole. So let's try and get this off. Set you guys right up here. Hopefully it's a good angle. Okay, it is. Get my 1/2 inch. Tight. There we go. Alright. Yeah, it's a lot easier to do this off the car, can't lie. So, oh, that's gross. And it stinks. I'm just going to tilt this forward so I can get majority of the oil out. Well, it doesn't look like a lot of fluid, which is kind of what I expected, considering one, it's not that big of a diff. The other thing is that this you really only fill until it starts dripping out from the fill bolt. So there's not, you can see this fill bolt's not that much higher, so clearly it doesn't take that much oil. Okay, so I've kind of loosened the 16s by hand, and I'm just going to take the bottom few off so that the oil can drain into the pan here. Okay, so that should be all of them. You have 4 small ones, which are at the top and the bottom, and then the 4 long ones go in the middle. Okay, so, oh, that came off easy. Okay, well, that was easy. I must say, diff oil stinks. Ugh. Okay, so I've let this thing drain for some time now. I think that's all the oil that's going to come out of it, so I'm going to use some brake clean. A plastic scraper. Don't use metal, you'll mar up the surface. You don't want to do that. And some clean blue rag or microfibers, whatever you prefer. So let's just get at it. Right? We'll start with a good wipe down of the area. I'm not gonna spray directly on it because I don't want brake fluid in there. Or sorry, brake cleaner. Sorry, I don't want brake cleaner in there. So just gonna spray on the towel. Most of this should just come right off with brake clean. Brake clean is really strong. Yep, as you can see. So I won't bore you through this. All I'm going to do is I'm going to clean this up and then we'll be right back. Okay, so that's as clean as I think I will get it. Some very minor surface rust there. I'm not too concerned. When you apply your RTV, it's on the inside of the bolt holes, so didn't leak before. Bite my tongue. I don't think it'll leak now. So let's stand this up. I'm gonna get it off the jack, stand it up, and then we'll start applying the RTV. Okay, so one of the things I gotta do before I, get the new cover on is to make sure I transfer this little sensor over. And yeah, it's 10 mils. Alright, so that's off. And then you can kind of pop this cover off the sensor. Just kind of, I think you have to rotate it through, actually. Oh no, it is actually straight through. There we go. Okay, so that's all I need. Okay, so here's a new one. Same concept. Get these two 10 mils off, which are not 10 mils on the new one. There might be 8s. Let's see. Yeah, there are 8 on the new one. That's interesting. Okay, so that's looking a lot more presentable. Now, keep in mind, this little plate goes in only one way. So, just make sure, because the sensor only also installs one way. So it looks like it goes in like that, because there's a notch here. See that flat part lines up with the flat part on the sensor side. So once you push that on, it only goes in one way, and then you kind of put that through and then put your two little 8 mils back on. Since this is also going to seal the cover, what you would want to do is probably, I'm assuming, put some RTV on here as well. So cleaning this up, and that might be a good idea. So let's clean this up with brake clean, and then also the area where it's made on the cover itself, and then we'll put some RTV on this as well before we kind of push this in place. I don't want it to leak. Okay, so we've got the RTV all set up. Let's got the cutters. I'm going to just cut off. Now, being that this is just for the sensor, I don't need that much, so I'm going to just cut off the top part here, which is the first little cut there. Okay, and then what we're gonna do is apply it around the perimeter here. But anyways, there we go. Okay, that should be good. And then what we're going to do is put this on. So we're just going to drop this through. Now keep in mind that the flat side, which is same as that, goes in towards the center of the cover. Just like that. Now, what it says is to finger tighten until it starts oozing out a little bit. So in this case, torque it down. It just has to finger tighten, and then you can see just a little bit start to ooze out the sides, which is what they want. And that's it. And then you look at the underside. Nothing's gonna ooze out the middle, so that's good. I don't know the torque specs for that, but we'll Google those. So basically what it says is once you have it finger tight, let it dry for an hour, and then you can torque it down. Okay, so we have the RTV applied. Now, you want enough where when you put the cover on, it kind of oozes out a little bit on the sides. You clean it up. And so, like what it says, 16 to 1/4 inch. Try to go down the center and then on the inside of the bolt holes. Okay, and we cleaned up the cover, so let's put this on. Okay, so just like that, you can see it's starting to ooze out as I hand tighten these bolts. So that's good. Really, what we're gonna do is just finger tight all of them, and what we'll do is just get it to the point where it's snug and this new cover is seated. You know, one thing I didn't say about this cover, it really looks like a billet piece. And let me tell you, this is gonna look phenomenal in my new, well, I shouldn't say new, but freshly painted rear subframe. It's gonna look great. I wish I actually bought new bolts now, because these don't look that great. But I guess they're not super rusty. I mean, the washers are. Don't forget the washers, by the way. I guess I got paint on them, so that does help them look a little bit better. But I wish I got new bolts. Otherwise, though, this new cover looks really good. Like a huge step up from, you know, having a kind of a dirty old cover. This looks really good. But yeah, just make sure you put enough so that you get some oozing like that, and so it'll seat nice. You just need to get it finger tight, let it dry for an hour, and then we'll torque these down. Okay, as we wait for this thing to dry, I'm just gonna tap in the bushings. Here's what I did. I don't have wood pieces that I have are either too long or too short here, so I basically put the jack underneath and supported it here, so when I tap this down, I'm not breaking the ear off again. So yeah, this is a method I use. This should work. These are condor bushings. I greased them up a little bit so that they go in a little bit easy, but yeah, you'll need to just use a rubber mallet as I did with those, and it'll come out nice. So let me start tapping that in. We're gonna clean this up and repaint it. This was just some undercoating that was on the car from before. It's and then when you jack up, you know, when I lifted this thing up with the jack, I kind of took that off. So I'm gonna clean this up and repaint it before I put it back on. But otherwise, let's tap these in. I removed the metal insert, so you can push that in after, because that will kind of make it expand. So let's get that done. And there we go, it's seated. So a couple taps, it went in pretty easily. We'll do the same thing on the other side. Okay, and they're both installed. So the only thing left, put these on. We're still waiting. It's about another 40-ish minutes to go until we can start tightening these down. So let's put these inserts in. They'll just kind of drop in. We'll use a little socket to push these in, and that's really good, just like that. Okay, and once those are in, then we're done with these bushings. There's one that goes into the subframe right there, and that's it, and the diff can be mounted. Don't forget to refill your diff with fluid before you start your car. I'm going to do that tomorrow because it says to wait a full 24 hours before exposing it to any fluid. So I'm going to give it full 24 hours. Tomorrow night we'll fill this up. Until then, we can kind of pop this back in and start, you know, I still have to clean up the underside, but we can start putting it all back together. But yeah, I'm quite happy with this. If you guys enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, give it a like, comment. You know, I'd love to hear from you guys what your thoughts are. If you guys have already run this, you know, if you had any issues with it. I've read some reviews online and people were really happy with it. So there's some, you know, it's oozing out the side. Should be careful what I'm touching. But yeah, how you guys felt about this? How do you guys feel about these condor bushings? All right, thanks everyone for watching. I appreciate you guys as always. Till next time, take care. See you guys soon.